right, hello. All right, hello everyone. First things first, for those of you who are here, I would like you to let me know how long you've been playing the Oud for, and if you haven't started playing Oud, how long have you been interested in the Oud? Yeah, please let me know in the chat. That'd be awesome. For those of you who just got here, please let me know how long you have been playing the Oud for, and or if you haven't played the Oud yet, haven't got one, how long have you been interested in the Oud? Another question, where did you get your Oud from? And let me know, if it's a beginner Oud, a more advanced Oud, that would be helpful for me to know. Is it a wall hanger? Is it more expensive Oud? That'd be good to know too. thanks for answering those questions. That was a little warm up. I was doing a piece by Mustafa Said, Istihlal Bayati, which just means a prelude or overture in Maqam Bayati. All right, so we got some people who have been playing for a little while now, 7 years, 1 year, brand new person, 1 month, 3 years, just somebody just starting, somebody who doesn't have an oud yet, been playing for about a year. Okay, brand new, Persian oud from Yahya, that's great. Brand new from Salah Music, that's great. All right, super cheap oud with a plug for an amp, a Turkish one, cool. Someone's been listening to the oud on and off for about 2 years, cool. Aside from the Barbat, I also have a Turkish one from Salah Music, okay, cool. And an Egyptian one found on Amazon, cool, okay. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me know. That'll help a little bit. So this today we're going to do an introductory kind of lesson on the oud, and we're going to talk about holding the oud, tuning the oud, and left hand, right hand stuff, and your beginning stroke patterns on the oud as well. All right. First things first. The oud that I've got here. This oud is an entry-level oud made by Zeryab Instruments in Syria, and I purchased this one from Morris Oud Shop. This is an entry-level oud. You can find these online for anywhere from $500 to $700, and they're pretty good instruments to start with. The top is cedar. The bowls come in different varieties. The cool thing about this instrument is that it has a little screw there that helps adjust the action a little bit. I don't know how effective it is, but it can change. It can help you change the action a little bit. That's what's nice about these Zeryab instruments. And yeah, that's a basic entry-level oud. The pegs here, they are not ebony. They look like ebony, but they're not. They're some kind of hardwood, maybe walnut or something like that. Not too sure. And I've got it tuned up right now in Arabic tuning, standard Arabic tuning. We've got C to C. From the low, we have C, then we have F, then we have A, then we have D, then we have G, and then we have C. So this is the tuning that I use in all my oud lessons. It's one of the most versatile. Now, when it comes to Arabic ouds and Arabic tuning, there are a couple schools of thought, and there are a couple different types of tunings that you can use. So this is the one that I use. Now, the bass strings are variable. So these are always going to be the same. C, G, D, and A. But these two strings here are always going to be variable, depending on your style, what you need to play. So you can tune them to either G or F. I've got it in F right now. Or you can tune it into, and the bottom one here, you can tune it to either D or C. I've got it in C right now. Another possible tuning for this G or F string here, the bass one, is E. So similar to guitar, you'd have G, D, A, and E. So that's an option as well, but I prefer not to use it. Sometimes with the overtones that you get, it's just not what I tend to use. Okay. Another tuning that exists out there, which some ouds, when you purchase a new oud, sometimes they'll have this this configuration. You'll only see 5 courses. So you'll see like the bottom F string will be in the bass slot, and then you'll have A, D, G, C, and then you'll have like room for an extra string at the top, an extra high string. So this tuning is standard as well. 5-course oud is great. You know, some beginners do tend to start with 5-course oud. That's cool. You can do most of everything you need to do with a 5-course oud. That's cool. And you have an extra space here for a high F string, which is a fourth above the C string. So everything starts from here. So that gives it the range of this area here. So you have an extra high F string. So that tuning is called fa to fa. So fa from the bass, fa to the extra high string. And this tuning is called do do. So do as in C to C here, do do. So those are the main two tunings that you see in the Arab world. Some ouds that you get from Egypt, you might have the high F tuning as standard. High F tuning is becoming quite popular, and yeah. So that's tuning. I'll show you how my oud is tuned up right now. All right. So I just use G strings tuner for it's a guitar chromatic tuner, and usually what I do is I tune G first. That's where it is. It's gonna fluctuate a little bit. Then I tune C up. I usually do this by ear, but I'm just showing you, you know, what the chromatic tuner is displaying so that you get an idea of where my pitches are. Then I tune up D. Then I tune up A. Then what I do for the bass strings, I usually tune my C, low bass C string first to G. So I make sure that they're harmonious with my ear. I use my ear for this the whole time. I only tune G to the tuner, because G is kind of where what I want to tune to. That's kind of the bass. You can tune other strings too, but that just works best for me, I think. And so I tune my bass C string to the C, get them harmonious. Then what I do is I tune the F string. I try to tune it to G. As you can see, it's flatter than the tuner. That's kind of important, because the F string is a bit of a harder tuner, a harder tuning to tune to. You need to temper it a little bit. But if you just want to aim for, you know, center, that's fine too. That'll work. So that's what I usually do for. They sound pretty good together, this intonation. So that's what I do for. Then I double check the F to the open C, the high C, so that there's not too much dissonance. Then I check the bass string. But for a beginner, all you got to do is use the tuner to get yourself in tune. Now, a key thing about tuning, it's important not to stop holding the oud to tune. Like, a lot of beginners need to, you know, get into here to tune. It's going to be really hard to tune that way. You need to be able to pluck the strings at the same time as you're tuning the instrument. You really got to do that. The reason for that is you need to hear and you need to see that it's matching up correctly. Pretty basic stuff, but a lot of beginners just don't get that, and the pegs are really hard to turn. But you got to get used to it. One of the ways that you can get around this when you're tuning is put the oud resting on your leg. That way you can push in and turn so that they don't come loose again. So you just, you know, you don't want to hear any dissonance. Dissonance is when you hear that wave pattern, wow, wow, when they don't sound in sync. You want them to sound exactly the same. It's super important for ouds, especially new ouds that you buy. For it to sound good, you got to keep it in tune. And so that's the biggest challenge for beginners, you know. And so that's something that you really have to be patient with, learning the oud. Anyway, that's back in tune. Then for the bottom strings up here, what I do, this is pretty tricky. I kind of clamp with my thumb and I try to turn, or sometimes I'll hold the the fingerboard with my fingers here to get at some of the pegs. But usually I try to clamp with my thumb. That way I can turn as well as keeping the peg inside, because if the peg slips, then you're going to have to start all over and your string is going to need to adjust. So it's important that you hold the oud properly when you're tuning the instrument. If you keep going like this, tuning, you're never going to get them in tune because you're not able to check the tuning and make sure that they're in sync. So you're going to have a lot of difficulties. So that brings me to holding the oud properly. So here we go. So there's a 3-point system to holding the oud. First you get the oud on your leg and you get your leg up. You use a footstool or some books, prop your leg up like that, your right leg. And then I recommend some carpet stopper to put on your leg, especially if you're a beginner. This will stop the oud in its tracks and it won't slide like that. The face of the oud should be parallel to the ground. If you're having trouble, seeing the oud, I recommend using a mirror so that you can see your reflection and see, that you're holding the oud properly. You can see which strings you're going to play. That might be helpful for you. But yeah, the face needs to be parallel to the ground, or not parallel to the ground, perpendicular to the ground, parallel to your chest. If you have to look, the carpet stopper is nice because you can angle the oud a little bit and it won't slip. I don't recommend this so much, but as a beginner, you're going to need to get your head over so that you can see the strings and make sure what you're playing. So it's acceptable. You can do this. You can get away from it for a while. But you got to use the carpet stopper so that the oud doesn't fly everywhere. So now that you got the first point, which is your leg up, then you've got your chest at the back of the oud, and then you've got your arm coming around like you're giving someone a headlock. That's really important. Like you're giving somebody a headlock. And your arm comes around here. Your wrist does not touch the face of the soundboard or the bridge or the strings. It just hangs out here. The only thing touching the oud is going to be this corner here on your forearm. And so different people, depending on the size of your body, you're going to have different, way that you're going to hold the oud a little bit different. So one thing that helps with that, is that you can angle the oud out this way or more flat. You can be parallel to your chest, or you can angle the oud out a little bit. That helps your arm get around. Your arm should aim for about this area, from here to about here. Some people are more comfortable playing down here. Some people are more comfortable playing up here. But basically, there is some variety that you can have in holding the oud. So then headlock position, and you want to aim, as a beginner, you want to aim for the furthermost left side of the pick guard. That's kind of the sweet spot. Don't play too close to the bridge, and don't play too close to the sound holes either, or else it's going to be a bit muddy. and the strings will resist you in a different way. They'll be kind of floppy. So the sweet spot is around here. Later on, when you become more advanced, you can always experiment with getting different tone closer to the bridge or closer to the sound hole. So that's basic of holding the oud. You should be able to hold the oud comfortably with these 3 points: your forearm, your chest, and your leg propped up. You don't need the left hand. The left hand's got to be free. So that brings us to the left hand. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Okay, so the left hand. Imagine you're going in to handshake somebody. You just give the fingerboard, the neck, a little handshake. And you kind of have this clamping action here. And so your thumb can hang out around here, and the bottom of the neck is always touching your hand. There's none of this. Never this. We never do this in oud playing unless you're playing up here. So a lot of guitar players or lute players, when they want to play the oud, they do this. They've got this huge, you see that huge hole here? You want to avoid this. Playing on a fretted instrument, that's good because you can reach everything and you don't have to be so precise. But on an oud, you have to be precise. You have to have a solid foundation there. You need to touch so that you can get the right angle, the right stability, so that you can play stuff like vibrato and you can get a nice tone out of the instrument. If you play like this, you can do it. Like I can do it, like playing like this. But there's way less control. If you play like this, then you've got way more control. So there's always some touching happening in this area. Sometimes around the index finger, this area here, and sometimes around here underneath the middle finger. There's always some touching happening. So handshake the neck, bring it over here, your fingers are ready, and your fingers just curve over. So what you want to try doing first of all is the first position. First position is where each finger hits a semitone from the nut. So for example, on the C string you have C, C sharp with your index finger, then D with your second finger, then D sharp or E flat with your third finger, and then E natural with your pinky finger. What I call second position is where your index finger shifts upward. And when you shift upward along the neck, your thumb always follows. Always keep that in mind. So when you're in the second position, that's when you can access one whole step above the open string. Like that. So this allows your pinky finger to reach the closed fourth note position from the open string. So 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth from the open string. That's really important. So second position and first position are important. Oud playing all comes down to when you're going to switch from second position to first position, or from first position to second position. When you're playing different scales, when you're playing different melodies and phrases, you're going to have different requirements. So usually people start from the first position. Let's look at a scale, for example, C major. So there's 2 ways of playing this. This is just an example to demonstrate moving from one hand position to another. So if you start in your first position, where you've got 1 finger per semitone, the C note on the A string would be with your third finger. Then you've got open D, then you've got E with second finger, F with third finger, then you've got open G, Then you could continue playing up with your second finger for A and your fourth finger for B natural and then C. But you could also change. If you're going to go higher, you can also do this. Or you could just go. See, it helps when you know you're going to go to a higher melody, you need to enter into the second position at some point. And then when you go down, you need to move back to the first position, if that's what you need to do. You can also stay in second position for this scale too. So oud playing in the left hand always comes down to this, making this decision of when to move from one position to another. That's what is going to help you play with good technique and be able to play with nice strong melodies. Alright, so that's the basics of the left hand. Now for the right hand. The right hand comes over like you're giving someone a headlock. Let's look at the Risha. Okay, so you want to take the Risha like this with your index finger and your thumb. There shouldn't be too much more than a centimeter sticking out like this. Then your other fingers curl around and form a little bowl. The most important thing is this slope in your hand, in your thumb, like a ski slope. You want to have this slope because it helps give stability to the Risha and the strings are not going to resist the Risha. Let's do your first strokes. So no left hand. Your left hand can hang out here or can be down here, whatever you like, whatever's comfortable. And let's look at the C string. So the motion is really just down like this. My arm is not moving. It's all in the forearm and the wrist. Now, when you first try to do this, I want you to feel the weight of your wrist coming down. Just let it fall. Strum whatever strings get in your way. Now the upstroke is just the hand coming back up. Now just feel the resistance. Feel the resistance of the strings and the weight of your hand. And what I want you to do, what I want you to focus on is not letting there be too much resistance. You want the Risha, the plectrum, to really cut through the strings. So you may need to tighten your grip a little bit with the thumb and the index finger, but ultimately you should be able to take the Risha out. You're not like grabbing it really hard. Just get used to the motion. Now, so your first kind of exercise that you're going to be doing on the oud is going to be doing downstrokes on each string. Key thing when you change strings, when you go to the G string, what should happen, what usually happens, is that your Risha is going to get stuck on the string below. You see how it stopped right here? Stopped right there. That's because of the angle. And so that's where you kind of want to sit. The angle of your hand is such that you're playing towards the soundboard. And so the string below is preventing the Risha from moving. So now I'm going to show you an exercise that you can develop a lot of control. So this one, you're just going to be doing down, up. So down on C string, down on G string. So this will help you, if you do this really slowly, this will help you navigate the strings better. And what you can try to do is take your pinky, stick it on the soundboard like an anchor, and then do the same exercise. Down on C, up on G, down on C, up on G. And you can try to get it faster and faster. This is a good exercise that you can start playing. This one will help you get efficient stroke out of your playing. So you want to play efficient small strokes that get a lot of sound out of the oud. So that's what this exercise does. When you do it with the pinky, you can kind of feel the limited movement that you have, and you can kind of get the right muscles activated there. And then take the pinky off, and you have a similar kind of movement. So that helps for focused, efficient strokes. That's what it's all about there. And you can experiment with the amount of Risha that you leave out. If you want to play more forte, more strong, loud, you can shorten the amount of Risha that's there. And you can, in order to play a little bit lighter, you can lengthen the amount, but I don't recommend doing that too much. Key thing for the left hand, let's go back here for a bit. Key thing for the left hand, keep your fingers close to the strings. Don't let them fly off too much, because it's going to take time for them to come back when you're wanting to play them. So very similar to guitar technique, you know, when you play one note, let's say D, and you're going up to E, you want to keep your index finger planted on D, or at least very close. Now when it comes to getting the fourth finger is going to need to learn how to stretch. And so sometimes it's okay to let your index fingers here come off the fingerboard in order to reach the right intonation. That's okay. That happens. But for the most part, you want to keep everything close to the fingerboard, close to the strings, touching the strings. That's key in oud playing as well, to help you play faster. If your fingers are all over the place, you know, and you're doing stuff like this, it's going to take a long time to come back. But sometimes you need to do it for, you know, vibrato. But if your fingers are close, then they can act quicker. All right, so this is, I want to talk a little bit about what to do from here on as an oud player, learning to play the oud, what to do. So I'll talk a little bit about that, so hang on here. But for now, if you have any questions that you wanna get out about anything that I've discussed so far, let me know in the chat. I'm just gonna catch up here and see what's going on. Okay, so the reminder of the tuning. We've got from the high string, we've got C, G, D, A, F, C. And yeah, so any questions you have, get them out there. It can be about this or about other stuff related to the oud. Question about geared pegs. What do I think about good geared tuning pegs? Sure, they're kind of ugly, unfortunately, for the oud aesthetic. That's the only drawback I really see of them. Some people complain that the weight of the oud also gets imbalanced. You know, when these are heavy pegs, heavy geared pegs kind of weigh it down a bit in the wrong way. For someone who's been playing with wooden pegs, yeah, the difference would be quite substantial, and it would throw you off. It'd be something you need to get used to. Yeah, sure, great. Geared pegs are great, but the wooden pegs work fine too once you get used to them. But it does take some time and some patience. There are also geared pegs that look like wooden pegs. I believe there's the Whitner pegs from Germany that you could get installed, and then there's another company I think in Boston that does it. Anyway, you can probably just Google that geared violin pegs or something like that, and you'll find some information about it. So no questions yet? Okay. So that's basically what the basics of the oud are. Your basic first lesson of playing the Arabic oud is going to be that. So let me talk a little bit about different ouds, different styles of oud. Turkish oud is a different thing. Let me show you a Turkish oud. This is an Arabic oud we have here. Turkish oud, I'll show you. It's a Turkish made oud, and this one you can play it in Turkish tuning or Arabic tuning, but I have it in Turkish tuning at the moment. So a little bit of the idea of the sound. So they're tuned differently too. From the highest string we have D, A, E, B, and then F sharp and C sharp. These of course are variable, you can tune them differently. The standard all fourths tuning is like this. And so it's a much brighter sound. So that's an example of Turkish oud. Now, when it comes to buying ouds, there's going to be. I want to talk a little bit about like the differences between an expensive oud and a cheaper oud. I'll bring back my entry level Arabic oud here. I bought this one as a backup because, it's good to have a backup oud and something that I can be a bit more rough with. And I love this oud. It's great. It's got a fantastic sound, and it's playable. I did have to adjust the nut. I had to shave the nut down a little bit because it was not that comfortable to play. The action was a little bit high, and so sanding down the nut did help. So I have a recommendation of some places that you can get an oud online. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the difference between entry-level oud and a more expensive oud. Okay, so you have some price ranges. Anywhere between like $500 to $1,000 is going to be good for anyone who's a beginner or an intermediate player. This oud is great, around $500 to $600, and I'm happy playing with it. As a professional oud player and an oud teacher, I'm completely happy playing this oud. It's great. But the playability is a little bit on the clumsy side. It's like driving a cheap, car versus getting behind the wheel of a nice Mercedes-Benz or a sports car. When you get up above $1,000, there should be a significant playability difference that you'll experience with the oud. So when I play this one and I hold this, it's smooth. Like it doesn't feel clumsy at all. That's the difference that you're gonna experience when you get an expensive oud. This oud runs for about 2,500 American USD. But the sound quality also, it's apples and oranges, completely different. There's a whole lot more volume with this oud than the entry-level oud. There's a more sophistication of sound. There should be, ideally, if you're going to a good oud builder. Ideally, for the price difference, you should be getting a good, much better sophistication of sound, a mature sound, nothing too rough, nothing too rustic. It should be more sophisticated, more to you should be able to hear complex sounds, complex frequencies, a little bit, maybe a bit more echo. Depends on the oud, and depends on the maker, of course, and the style of oud too. But playability should be nice, and like you should be able to feel that the oud is making you a better player. It's easier to play. That's basically it. That's some of the things that, of course, I don't really like flashy ouds myself. This design was picked out for me, so I didn't. I actually prefer simpler aesthetics for ouds. Um, but when you get to more high price range, you can do different combinations of oud, wood, different combinations of design and all that stuff, and if that's what you like. But simple ouds it's all about the sound in the end. So those are some of the differences between an more expensive oud and a cheaper oud. Um, so I can give you some information about where to get a decent starter oud if you haven't already. If you don't have an oud already, you can email me at support@oudforguitars. I'll put this in the chat, and I can send you a catalog of the ouds that I recommend. And you can actually purchase the ouds directly through me. I'm working directly with a oud supplier that can get you a decent starter oud, and the prices range from about $400 to $1,000. So email me and I can send you a catalog for that. I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. Okay, I just started watching. What's your background? Do you mean what kind of background do you mean? Ethnic or oud playing background? I was born in Canada. My mother is Iranian and my father is Canadian. I associate, a bit more with the Iranian culture, Iranian music. I was exposed to Iranian Persian traditional music since I was a kid. I started playing the santur at age 10. The santur is a hammered dulcimer. That's a bit about my background with music. So I was educated mostly in Persian music, took private lessons for many years. With the oud, I started learning the oud in about 2003 with Hossein Behruziniya, one of the leading Iranian oud / barbat players. And so I studied with him most extensively. Then I started studying Arabic music and Turkish music on my own. Took lessons with people like Charbel Rohana, a Lebanese oud player, and I got to meet Simon Shaheen and worked in his small chamber ensemble during the Arabic music retreat that I attended in 2016. And so I've also been studying Turkish music on my own, as it relates to the oud, through an organization called Labyrinth and Ross Daly, those characters. And so, that's a little bit about my background. And so any other questions here? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Hossein Behruziniya is the guy who composed Midnight Sun. Everyone loves that tune. Yeah, Abdul Wahab. Abdul Wahab is a great composer. There's a few tunes. One tune I've done by Abdul Wahab. I actually have a workshop on one of his tunes coming up on the 24th. It's more of an advanced workshop, but there's Aziza. example of Abdul Wahab, an Egyptian composer. Um, yeah, I dabble in a lot of different styles, but I I really learn music that I like to play, and that's really just about it for me, anyway. Um, so I want to talk about now, if you don't have any questions, what you can do to move forward with the Oud after watching this lesson. So there's a couple things that you can do. In the next few hours, I'm doing a small promo. If you book lessons within the next 5 hours, and you're a new student of mine, I'll give you 20% discount. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now if you're interested. All right, just bear with me for a second. So here we go. So if you go to this link, you can check out the Oud lesson page that I have, and you can see my calendar. I'm going to show you how to do it with the screen here. Just bear with me. All right, so you go to this page, and then you'll scroll down, ready to start, pick a date and time that works for you below. You can check by the month. So in the next few hours, if you book a lesson and you're a new student, you click on one of these times that's available, and you can change your time zone. Change it to whatever your time zone is here, down here, and then choose that, and then choose a time that works for you. And let's say, okay, if you press confirm, you can get rid some, put your name, whatever your name is, your email. And then in this here, if you have anything specific you'd like to discuss or work on today, put in YT live and schedule the event, and then you can get 20% off your first Oud lesson with me, your first 2 Oud lessons with me. And so this deal will expire in the next few hours. So if you book in the next few hours, I'll definitely provide this discount for you, just so that you can get started with. So take advantage of that. But if you're not ready to start an Oud lesson with me yet, what you can do, and what I highly recommend, even if you're going to do an Oud lesson with me or not, get into my beginner Oud lessons class. It's a free email course that you can sign up for. I'm going to put the link here. The link is in the description of this video too. One moment here. Okay, so here's the link, and it'll show up here, and it'll say get up and out running with the Oud with this free beginners course. Learn everything every beginner Oud player needs to know. And it'll go through some of the things that I've showed you today, and it'll show you some other videos with some exercises, some of your first lessons that you can follow. Put in your email address, your first name, click I agree, and then join now, and then you'll get into the email course. So I highly recommend you do that, so that you have some material to work on, and it's all for free. And you'll also be notified of any other promotions that I've got going on, or any other events, Oud workshops and all that stuff that I'll be throwing in. So yeah, make sure, if you haven't, if you're one of my new students and you want to get in on Oud lessons, want to get a little bit of a discount, sign up for my Oud lessons at the link I put there, and for the next few hours I'll be offering that discount, and the code is YT Live. All right, do you have any other questions? Because I'm basically done what I wanted to cover today. You can ask me any questions about anything of the Oud. Happy to answer anything. So I'll give you some time to think of some questions. Dabble around here on the oud a little bit. Question about tuning app. I just recommend what I use. I use G Strings. This tuning app is good. I like it because it shows the number beside the note that you've got it here. I'll show it to you. The number is useful because when you're a beginner oud player and you're trying to figure out what string, what note to tune these to, it's important to have that number because the number indicates what octave it is. So C4 is the highest one here, the highest string. And then the low one is C2. So that's helpful a little bit for making sure you're in the right octave. I've had some people email me and like they've tuned their oud like a whole octave down. You know, they didn't know what strings were on it, and so you know that's a little bit helpful. It's called G Strings for Android. But no, I don't really recommend any particular tuner so much. You download whatever you can find, as long as it's a chromatic tuner, that'll do the job. What oud music is most suitable for guitar, if any? That's a tricky question. I would suggest there are a couple maqams that you could play on the guitar with some degree of passability. So any tunes that are in maqam nahawand, I'll type these here: maqam kurd, maqam ajam, maqam hijaz kar. These are good. Search for some tunes in these maqams, and you can play them with some passability on the guitar. But not much oud music is really suitable for the guitar. I'm not a big fan personally of guitar oud kind of duos. The intonality is just off because what happens is the oud player has to conform to equal temperament, and so you lose some of the quality that you have in the microtonality that Arabic and Turkish music have. So another question. So hello from Germany. Nice to see you from Germany here. It's quite early in the morning, isn't it? Thanks for joining us today. So the name of the app is G Strings. G Strings for Android. So another question, is there any significant difference between playing on a Turkish oud versus an Arabic oud? Not really. Functional wise, they function the same. There's a little bit of most Turkish ouds are longer, a couple centimeters longer. So the playability, if you have a larger oud, is going to be a little bit different than a shorter oud. Turkish ouds are usually, from the nut to the bridge, are usually going to be 58.5 centimeters. And most Arabic ouds are about 60 centimeters or 61.5. There's even some that are 63 centimeters long, but that's very rare. They don't make them very much anymore. So there is some difference there, but the sound wise is going to be different too. Turkish ouds tend to be a little bit brighter, but for most things for a beginner, it's not that not going to be that noticeable. It's mostly for professionals who want a particular sound. After you've been playing the oud for 5 years or so, then you'll start to be able to hear the differences a lot more. All right, how do you know how to play? Do you know how to play Hijaz Mandir? Yeah, I love that tune. It's a great tune. Fantastic tune. I play it on Turkish and Arabic tuning. So let's see here. Just a little bit of Hijaz Mandura. One more question. What would you recommend for Risha practice? There's first focus on downstrokes, then do down, up, and then do that exercise which you can see in this earlier in the video, doing down on one string, down on the C string, up on the G string. So that's what I recommend. Very for beginners, that's what I'd recommend. You need to develop being able to play fast downstrokes. Also down, up, so that you can eventually get to tremolo. And then you need to be able to practice when you go from one string to another to play a downstroke on the way down. This will really increase your technique. So that exercise down on C, up on G really helps. Okay, your tuning is C. C, mine is F, F. Can I switch without repercussions? You need to use a different string set. But what you can do, like these tunings are not different. One thing that a lot of people think is that you really have to change your strings. Just ignore the high F string and pretend you don't have a bass C string. Most of 90%, 80% of music that you're gonna play on the oud happens on 5 courses: C, G, D, A, F. That's it. That's most of it. The high F string is completely optional. The low bass string is completely optional. You don't need anything else. I try to play tunes that are meant for FF tuning. I try to play everything up here, as much as I can. So you can play tunes that have that tuning. You just have to play them up here. It's a bit harder. Yeah, there's certain things you can't do, but that's the range of the oud. That's the classic sound of the oud that people are familiar with. But that's different styles, right? Also, the bass string is just optional. You can play everything without it. It's nice to have it. I like it because it beefs up my other notes. You can do stuff like that. So that's helpful to have the bass string. But for the most part, you can do everything on 5 courses. No, I don't know Helwadi. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to email me. Like I said, email is support@oudforguitarists. And do make sure, if you're interested in oud lessons, sign up for the beginner email lessons. sign up there, and sign up for Oud lessons at this link here. Like I said, if you use the code YTLive and you book in the next few hours, then you'll be able to get a discount on your first 2 Oud lessons. Alright, so if you have any questions, email me. It was nice to see you all here. Thanks for coming out and joining me today. I hope you learned something, and yeah, we'll see you next time.